Hey y'all, it's Pastor James here with this very first episode of our Bible study in Genesis. Today we're going to do Genesis chapter 1, which is all about creation. Now, as everybody knows, Genesis chapter 1, the very, very beginning of the Bible, is also the very, very beginning of history. It is probably the most debated chapter in the whole Bible. When you look at creationism versus evolution, when you look at exactly how old the earth actually is it millions of years old or less? It all goes to do with whether you believe science and what they think with all of their theories. Theories, remember, are things that have not yet been proven. Or if you have the faith to believe that the Bible is in fact the infallible Word of God and everything in it is in fact true, like I do. So let's dive into that and see what we have, and we'll discuss that further. Now, to introduce the chapter and get us started, Genesis 1 opens the Bible with a very majestic and orderly account of the creation of the heavens and the earth. This chapter sets the theological foundation for the rest of Scripture by introducing God as the sovereign creator who brings everything into existence by just His Word. The structure, rhythm, and repetition in the narrative emphasize both the power and intentionality of God's creative work. Humanity's unique role within creation is highlighted, along with the inherent goodness of all that God has made. So let's dive in now, and I will actually read for you the first chapter of Genesis. Starting in chapter 1, one of the most powerful verses in the whole Bible, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Doesn't get much simpler than that. So, to continue, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters He called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seeds according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let there be for signs and seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our own image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the 6th day. And that is the end of chapter 1 of Genesis. So let's do a creation recap real quick. We saw the first 6 days of creation, when God actually worked and created the earth that we know now. On day 1, he created light, separating it from darkness, and we now have day and night. On day 2, he created the sky, separating it from the waters, and the firmament that he created above the sky he called heaven. On day 3, he created dry land, separating the seas so that the earth could be exposed, and then vegetation on that dry land. On day 4, he created the sun, the moon, and the stars to light the earth both day and night. And then on day 5, he created fish and birds. And then on day 6, he created all of the land animals and then humans, and gave everything that he had created from days 1 through 6 to humans. Now, as we know, on day 7 he rested, having seen that everything was good and he was done. But that's actually the beginning of chapter 2, so we will get back to that in our next lesson. So we have several key themes in this chapter. The first one being the sovereign creator. We see God being introduced as the eternal creator who brings the universe into existence by his spoken word. The repeated phrase, "and God said," emphasizes his authority and power to create effortlessly. The next key theme that we have is order and structure in creation. The creation account follows a deliberate sequence: light and darkness, sky and sea, land and vegetation, celestial bodies, sea and air creatures, land animals, and then finally humanity. The 6-day structure shows intentionality and design, with each day building upon the previous one. The next key theme we have is separation and distinction. God separates light from darkness, waters above from waters below, and land from sea, establishing order in his creation. This theme of separation lays the foundation for future biblical concepts of holiness and distinction. And then we have the key theme of creation of humanity. Humanity is uniquely made in the image of God, signifying dignity, purpose, and relational capacity. Male and female are both created in God's image, highlighting equality and intentional design. And again, when we get into chapter 2 tomorrow, we will see the exact specifications as to how male and female were made. It just touches on the fact that on day 6 they were created, but in chapter 2 it actually states how. And the next key theme that we have is God's blessing and commission. God blesses living creatures and especially humanity, giving them a mandate to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule over all the other creatures. This dominion is presented as a stewardship under God's authority. Our next key theme is the goodness of creation. After each act of creation, God declares it good. And the entirety of creation is declared very good after the creation of humanity. This affirms the inherent goodness of the physical world as God intended it. Now, as I stated a few minutes ago, the seventh day is implied. Though Genesis 1 ends with the sixth day, the narrative sets the stage for the sanctity of the seventh day, which is detailed in Genesis 2, verses 1 through 3. The structure hints at the importance of rest and completeness in God's creative work. So one of the things that brought me to start this Bible study in Genesis, the very beginning of the Bible, what better place to start, right? You see on TV all the time, our kids are being taught in schools all the time what scientists, anthropologists, archaeologists, what all of them come together and bring to the table. One of the most famous things that was brought to the table was Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution. It still to this day is a theory of evolution because it has never been proven. Over millions and millions of years, animals crawled from the seas and up onto the land, ape became human, and so on and so on. You've heard the stories. We were all taught pretty well, much the same way in school. But in order for that to happen, the earth would have to be millions of years old. If you look at Genesis 1, which is in fact the written word spoken by God, this is what actually happened. This is our history. It's not that old. God created everything on earth in 6 days. It did not take him millions of years to do so. It took him 6 days out of a 7-day week, and on the 7th day he rested. So, is the earth millions of years old? Definitely not. Now you look at science again. I love science. We learn a lot from science. Science is involved in just about everything we do on a daily basis. But they rely on things like carbon dating and radiometric dating to prove their theories. And they don't do a very good job because they're still theories. Carbon dating, as you probably know, is a way to gauge the age of animals or other beings by looking at the age of their bones, anything that has carbon in it. How much carbon is in it, given a basic approximate date as to how old the animals might be, and somehow they come up with millions of years old. Then if you look at radiometric dating, that's the terminology that they use and the method that they use to try to determine the actual age of the rocks that these animals are found in. Same thing. It's never been proven. It's not true. Although highly accepted by both science and academia, they're both very flawed and extremely inaccurate. So, the word prehistoric. The dinosaurs lived in prehistory, so they lived before history, and there was prehistoric man. Okay, so that says there was man on earth before Adam. If you look at the very, very first verse, it says that God was here. He existed before anything else, and He alone created the heavens and the earth. There was no history prior to Genesis 1:1. Therefore, there cannot be prehistory. So nothing can be prehistoric because it did not exist before history. History starts again in Genesis 1:1. So if you look at that, as we go through all 50 chapters of Genesis, you're going to see that the earth is only about 6,000 years old. I mean, we're in the AD phase of that, and we're at 2025. There was approximately 4,000 years prior to that for a grand total of 6,000. All of the history that we know of, all of the written history that we know of, has happened over the last 6,000 years. You can look that up in several places. The history books are wrong. They do kind of show that. The terminology BC, before Christ, which or BCE now, before Common Era, shows that history before Christ arrived on Earth is fairly common if you look at it, several thousand years old, but surely not before that. So what about the dinosaurs? Well, once again, you can't have something living prior to history, so they cannot be prehistory or prehistoric. If you go and look at the things that the anthropologists and the archaeologists have found, they have found cave drawings all over the world of man and dinosaur in the same drawing. That alone should tell you that man and dinosaur did in fact live together at the same time. If you look in Genesis, I believe it's chapters 24 and 25, it says that God created the beasts of the earth. I'm thinking that may very well have been the dinosaurs. But you also have to look at before the flood, which is several hundred years after this, the climate on earth was different. It didn't rain prior to the flood. All of the water that was needed for man, for animals, for plants, was already on the earth. Water was plentiful. So the climate completely changed. It was a much wetter climate. After the flood, when everything dried up, it literally dried up. There was water in not near as many places, and everything changed. So the animals that grew into what we now know as dinosaurs did not get that big anymore, and they became lizards. Okay? So the beasts of the earth may very well have been the dinosaurs. If you look further into the Old Testament in the book of Job, and I'm getting off track now, but if you look in Job chapters 40 and 41, he talks about behemoths and leviathans, which are beasts of the earth that did in fact live during that time. So, anyway, chapter 1 is strictly about creation. The first 6 days of existence of anything. God was here, nothing else was. He made it by his spoken word, and now here we are today, 6,000 years later. So, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Feel free to leave comments, questions that you may have. I will answer them to the best of my ability. And come back for more. We will go right through all the chapters of Genesis. There is a lot of history in there, starting with Adam and Eve, going into Cain and Abel, their two sons, and all their troubles. We get later into Noah and the ark, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. And then we've got all of the forefathers of the Israelites. You look at Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then eventually Joseph, right up to the end of Genesis, right before the Exodus from the Israelites happens. So a lot of history. We're looking at about 1,500 to 2,000 years just in the book of Genesis alone. So definitely come back. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know. Give me some comments, good or bad, things I might be able to do to improve. This is the first time I've done anything like this. And in the meanwhile, God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Take care.